Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. As you can see, I did change the name of my channel to Anexus Matos. I wanted to change it to my real name because I wanted to include other things in this channel, not just reactions. However, there will still be reactions. I'll make sure to have one weekly, Saturdays at 6 p.m. like I've been doing. I may add some extra once in a while, but for now, once a week, 6 p.m. And I'm adding some extra things. And this is why we're reviewing a Game of Thrones today, but also know that the series Reaction from a Blind Woman the name is getting changed to Blind Woman Reacts. And this one is Blind Woman Reviews. I am definitely just doing that for fun. Anyway, A Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin is a very long book. The edition I read was 694 pages, and it took me 2 months to read. I am right now reading A Clash of Kings, and I've been reading it since February, and I'm only like in page 512 maybe. I want to try to read more. I know I'm capable of reading more because while I was reading that, I read a bunch of other books. So I know for a fact I can read more much faster, but that is long. So anyway, A Game of Thrones, the main story kind of is starts off when Eddard Stark gets offered the position, well, actually gets chosen. He gets offered, but eventually he's just chosen, basically. Like, gets offered the position of being the hand of the king, and the king happens to be his best friend. So he and a bunch of his children go to King's Landing, and he ends up, joining the court and basically doing a lot of the king's work because, yeah. And that's the main story. However, we follow a really large cast of characters, and their stories are either connected to or loosely connected with the main story. The main one that I can tell you is loosely connected to the main story is, the main two actually, are Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen. Those two stories are loosely connected with each other because although we get hints of the main story with their storylines, we get more of a different storyline with theirs that just happens to be loosely connected to the main story. I think the book is well written. I did like it. It's a lot of point of view characters to keep track of, but it's a fun challenge for me as a reader. I did enjoy it. I will say there are a few things that could deter someone from reading this book, I think, which I'll talk about shortly. I do think there are a few things that could deter them, but honestly, I was not deterred from reading these things just because I was perfectly okay with these things. I don't mind. But first, I'm gonna just talk about the positives really quickly. So the world building of this book was actually pretty good. I liked it a lot, and I think it was well done, as well as the character development. I think was very good. I think the characters were developed well, and I think these characters feel real. They feel realistic. And that in the medieval setting definitely feels realistic, especially with Daenerys Targaryen, which I'm going to talk about just slightly. I'm going to keep things here spoiler free, but anyway. So yeah. So I feel like this stuff is very, very, very realistic when it comes to the medieval period, as well as like the medieval setting, as well as just the world itself. Now, the writing style is fine. I don't put a lot of I don't give a lot of I don't care too much about the writing styles because sometimes it depends on the character, but this writing style is very similar to everyone. It's very It's just a third person limited for each chapter, even though you're following a bunch of different things. So now I'm gonna go to some other things that could A, bother some people, and B, I can understand, and so on and so forth. So in this book, you follow a large cast of characters, which means it's really hard to keep track of all of them. But also, along with that, George R. Martin gives a lot of description for everything: the food, the outfits, the family banners. They're all described. Anytime there's a feast, all the food is described. Anytime someone walks in, they are described. Like, the outfits they're wearing at the time are being described. There are descriptions for everything, and a bunch of family banners that may not always have to do with the plot, but at first you think that you have to memorize, but you don't have to memorize everything. But he is very, very descriptive in all this stuff. Now, honestly, I'm okay with that, but there are times when it does annoy me because the descriptions are, a lot. So it's hard to get it's hard to just say, all right, fine, whatever, like, it's a description, but it's also hard to just keep track of them. I personally don't usually try to remember the descriptions. I remember names a little bit faster in this book, especially. So yeah, I'm just saying it's a lot of descriptions. Along with that, there is he does a lot of exposition. There are a lot of info dumps throughout this book. And a lot of it relates to the history and the world building. I mean, a lot of info dumps. Now, I don't necessarily mind the info dumps and exposition as long as they're related to the story. However, I do think that the world could have been built better without this amount of exposition and the way it's done. We basically, it'll be like someone could say something about a certain place, or someone could say something, and then we get this whole thing of exposition about the history. Also, when someone might think about a specific time, we get that whole point of exposition. That can also get just a little bit jarring and annoying because it's a lot of information. I honestly don't remember most of the exposition I read in this book, or the type of exposition I'm reading in A Clash of Kings, because it's a lot. It's way too much, and a lot of it eventually has nothing to do with the plot. So when all this exposition is thrown at you as the reader, it just is a lot, and you don't always have to remember all this stuff. Also, as a reader, one thing you might want to know is that it is very bleak. The environment is bleak. It's just really bleak. I don't mind this environment. It's fine. Honestly, turns out I read it at the perfect time because we're still in a pandemic and it's 2021 and it started on March 20th. Feels about right. It feels about right. So yes. Anyway, I think that the environment is very bleak, and also this book is not for teen viewers. This book is very much for an adult audience. There are sex scenes and there are other things that honestly just shouldn't be read by teen viewers. Some things that could one other thing that could bother readers is some things about the way that some of the things that are done to the character Daenerys Targaryen and some of the younger characters. I'm gonna give you an example. I'm not gonna put it too much. I don't think this is a spoiler. So anyway, Daenerys Targaryen starts off at 13 and she marries a 30-year-old man because it's and everything like that. And there have been interpretations where in her wedding night, basically, Khal Drogo rapes Daenerys. And I think everyone can read it very differently. I read it as consensual sex because he did ask her in a way. He did, well, actually, not even in a way. He did ask her. He did ask her in about this. He did ask her if she, he did leave her an out from having sex on the wedding night. So I think that I read it consensually, but I do know that there are so many different interpretations of this that you just want to be careful when reading it. So yeah, just be warned about that. So that's one thing that you might want to be warned about as you're reading, since I think it's really important that you know this. But I read it consensual, but that's just me. So, and it also feels like the setting. It does definitely feel like the medieval period where, women of a really early age are betrothed and married off to someone. So it doesn't feel unbelievable. It feels very much realistic. Another thing I want to say is that I actually rated this book 4 stars, and there's a reason I rated it 4 stars and not 5, as much as I loved it. This book, as great as it is, I think the author does not give us enough time to grieve and enough time to feel the emotions of the characters. I don't think he's very good at describing emotions, but that's because that's my premise. There are scenes that are meant to be emotional, but I have a hard time feeling emotional for a couple of the scenes that he is describing. So we're not given time to grieve, because after an emotional scene happens, sometimes the chapters end an emotional scene and we go to another character and another part of the story, and other times, even in that same chapter, it just jumps to something else that's happening right at the time. So I think that although his characters feel real, some of the emotional scenes that are meant to be emotional just aren't fully described well, and because of that, I have a hard time feeling any emotions toward any of the characters. So I find it kind of hard to just feel emotional toward the characters. I am attached to them, but it just feels like he does not fully describe emotions well for me as the reader. So yeah, that's my spoiler-free review of A Game of Thrones. Let me know what you thought of A Game of Thrones, and I would love to discuss it with you, because I think that it's a really good book, and I'm really happy reading A Clash of Kings right now. So I'll review A Clash of Kings when I'm done. But yeah, let me know how you feel about this, and let me know really anything you want to let me know about. Anyway, I will see you in my next video, which will be on Thursday. My next review is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.